Well, I got Jeff Felten with me today. I'm excited about this topic. Man, we're going to kind of unpack adventure. Lives in Washington State right now. And Jeff, nice to have you.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, my first question, early on in life, who was kind of your big influences on, what defined adventure for you?
Adventure. Well, I grew up in like really rural South Carolina, like way in between two small towns is
Mhm.
where I grew up. And so adventure just looked a whole lot different. It's real flat out there,
Mhm.
swampy. And um, I would say, we spent a good bit of time vacationing though. And we didn't really go anywhere crazy. We had a camper that my whole family would pile in, and we'd drive a few hours to a state park or something
Mhm.
like that. And so I guess, while I didn't really see incredible mountains until my mid to late 20s. But we always, growing up, we always kind of had a sense of escape, I guess, of let's get away for the weekend, or let's make sure
Mhm.
we're taking time off from work, and we're,
Yeah.
I guess that kind of work play balance. We always kind of did that. And that's always, um, I've always maintained that if I don't get to play enough, I'm not feeling good. So
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. So, uh, yes, when you went in your 20s, had a little more freedom, have a little bit more your own time. I mean, what were some of the, being that feeling of needing to get away to, kind of escape? What was some of the things that you did?
yeah, well, again, I grew up in a really small town in Florence, and then I moved to or in South Carolina, and then I moved to small, a little bit bigger of a town. It's still a small town in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And so really, like, you know, I don't know. It's just like when you grow up in a place like that, and you spend a lot of time in a place like that, you kind of like you make your own fun, and you do your own things. And so, there isn't a whole lot to see. There's really not a whole lot to do. If you want
Hmm.
to go somewhere cool, it's hours and hours away. And so, um, I still like the things that I enjoy now, are not necessarily the same things I enjoyed in my
Hmm.
mid 20s. But one of the things that's kind of been with me since high school was golf. I love to golf, and so
Huh.
there are many days where, I'll get up and start working really early just so I can take off, sometime after lunch and go play around the golf or something.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, that's always kind of one of my escapes,
Hmm.
and has been for a long time. So
Yeah. And so growing up and even in your 20s, like, before even like, did you feel like that space, did that allow, growing up in a small town, that develop really a value for creativity to expand, to risk, to take, to really that has affected your life even today?
I don't think so. I mean, I
Okay.
think I think kind of the opposite. I
Yeah.
think that like I didn't really know anything.
Huh.
I didn't know much growing up in a place like that, and even, and we can talk about this later, but like I was so fixated on what I thought I wanted to do, and my options were so limited, what I knew was out there, uh,
Yeah.
that like I ended up having like a quarter life crisis at one point, because like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and
Huh.
I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But yeah, like I remember when I was 20, 24, 25 maybe, some buddies and I took a trip out west, to California, and we flew into San Francisco, spent a couple of days there, then drove up 101 to Seattle.
Hmm.
And that was my first real adventure, where I saw like really magnificent things, where I was like, man, this is crazy. Like I want to do more of this. The redwoods were like a big thing, the Pacific coast, like those kinds of
Hmm.
things, where I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this before.
Right.
And so that, I didn't like I never really knew growing up in a small place like that. Like we had our life and it was good. It was really, really good. But, like I didn't really get out of the Southeast a whole lot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
just didn't really, know what was out there to be seen and to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's interesting you said, because I mean, that was I had a similar, upbringing, Birmingham, Alabama, center of the universe kind of mindset. And then when you start experiencing and really exposing yourself to, different places, different experiences, and even people, how really maturity becomes inevitable. You
mm,
really you expose yourself and you're like, oh, wow, there's so much more that I can explore, so much I can discover. Um,
yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, unpack a little bit more of that, of just really how that experience then led to more, and really your growth as a man in general, as a person. So, mhm.
Yeah, so I played baseball for a long time. I played baseball through high school and college, and that was my life for
Huh.
17 years. It's what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life, and I didn't really know that you have to be like crazy, crazy good to make a career out of it.
Yeah.
In my naivete, thought that this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life, and by God, I'm good enough to do it. And I really wasn't, just to be quite frank. And so, you know, I don't know, like when I left and went to college to play ball, like I had no backup plan. I had no idea of,
Mm-hmm.
what else I wanted to do or what else is out there. And even all through college and after college, like I still didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I would say that, oh gosh, I'm getting away from your initial question. What was the question again? I'll
Yeah,
start
I
over.
mean, just what out of experience in the redwoods and experiencing that,
Uh,
what led to your kind of growth, maturity kind of thing?
yeah, that's an interesting question.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
did you just start feel like the roof was taken off, and now I can explore and enjoy all these different experiences, and what were kind of some of those experiences?
Sort of, yeah. It opened my eyes to what is out there and what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
At the time, I was still like I was broke, man. I didn't really have
Yeah.
the money to be able to do that kind of stuff, and so like I just kind of, and I developed a mentality of, well, that's really cool and all, and I'd love to do it, but I can't afford it, so
Mm,
we'll just kind of stick where we're at, and so.
right.
Uh, but it definitely you know, opened up some new pathways in my mind,
Mm,
of what's possible, what's out there. The world's a whole lot bigger than my little tiny sphere, and
yeah.
so I guess I've never really put together this timeline,
Mm,
but probably that happened when I was 24, 25, and um, I think that a couple of years later, like I kind of just got tired of what I was doing, and
mm,
um, knew there was a whole lot else out there, but I just didn't know what was out there for me. I didn't know what I could do or what
yeah.
I really wanted to do. So
Huh.
yeah, so I guess in a way, it did lead to some
Yeah.
uh, I don't know, some maturity, some
Yeah.
really interesting times, I guess.
So you grew up in small town, South Carolina, really wanted to play baseball, and you played it in college, right? Is that what you said?
Mhm.
Yeah. Where'd you play in college?
The bench, but uh, no, I played at Francis Marion University for 3 years. And I played for 3 years because I ended up having to get a job to pay for living expenses.
Mhm.
Long story short, I had a big account of chunk of money that ran out pretty quickly, and so I had to get a job to pay for school and to pay for living expenses, and so I had to quit baseball because I didn't have time for both.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was my dream. That was what I thought I was going to do for sure. So
Yeah. Huh. Anything? I mean, I just think it's interesting. A lot of men, I mean, it's similar to me, having a dream in your mind, building up as this is the end all be all. And when that dream is crushed, you know, generally there's disappointment, right? There's hurt, but sometimes you kind of get to the bottom of that, and then you realize, oh, what's that? Then it's got a springboard to something else. When did that you feel like that happened? Like, all right, what then? You know,
Yeah. It was a long time. Like I played baseball, and I went to school I got like a really general business degree because I had no clue what else I wanted to do. I mean, I
right?
really had no clue. Baseball was life. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another thing too about the college experience was that, when I grew up in a small town, and, I was one of the best players on the team and one of the first players ever from that high school to sign a college letter of intent to go play baseball somewhere. And so I came into college thinking that I was pretty darn good. And I got there with, a bunch of other guys who had just come back from the College World Series. And, um,
Hmm.
I realized that I really wasn't that good. I was middle of the pack at best. And so
Yeah.
it was really, really humbling. And, foolish me, I still didn't really, put a whole lot of effort into thinking, what else do I enjoy? What else do I really want to do?
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of went with whatever was easy.
Right.
And I didn't really, so I guess it's twofold. Like I didn't really put in the effort to think about what I wanted to do, but then
Mm-hmm.
I also didn't really have anybody trying to help me figure it out. Didn't really,
Yeah.
like it was just go get your degree because a degree matters. And that's, you're going to be thankful you got it down the road and it'll get you a lot of places. But, and I'm glad I did. School was not easy for me. I'm glad I did it, but I never really stopped to think about what I actually want to do. So I
Right.
wound up with a really generic degree that, doesn't mean much and never really pointed me in a direction, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is a pretty common thing. I think a lot of people do
Yeah.
that just to get a degree and never figure out what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and that coupled with my experience in growing up in a small place where it's really blue collar, and you know the options that either are available or you know taught to you are just pretty limited. Like you just don't know what's out there. And so
Yeah.
um after school, that kind of uh not knowingness, like I ended up taking a job with a friend to help him start a coffee shop, which was pretty cool. And I didn't, again, at this
Yeah.
time, like, I didn't know any differently. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just said, okay,
Mhm.
sure, that sounds really cool, love to do that.
Right.
And that was the beginning of um that was the beginning of where I am now. But I was 23, I think, 23
Mhm.
at the time. And it was another 5 or 6 years after that before I really figured out, not even more than that, probably like 6 or 7, I think,
Yeah.
before I really figured out what I wanted to do. I remember sitting at the coffee shop one day, and one of my friends was going to school to be a graphic designer, and he
Mhm.
was he was working on some stuff. And I remember looking at him and looking what he was doing and thinking, oh my gosh, like people can do that for a living?
Right. Yeah.
Like, so cool. Why didn't I know about stuff like this?
Yeah.
I had to, like, I had to be an athlete, or, go work construction, or,
Mhm.
if I don't want to do hard labor stuff like that, I could go be a doctor, or, just really
Yeah.
basic things like that. Nobody ever told me you could be a graphic designer.
Yeah.
So
Right.
cool. So yeah, those kinds of things. I mean, it was after, that experience in college, it was still quite a while of just really kind of trying to do things and just figure out what I enjoy. This is
Mhm.
still, it took quite a while to get that figured out.
Yeah. I mean, feel like there's a lot of different questions I'm sitting there thinking through because that's such a powerful moment. But yeah, so what would you tell that 23-year-old now? Now knowing what you know, what would you tell
Man, what would I tell them?
him?
I know what I wish I knew, but I don't know what I would tell them.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's so hard because like what I wish I knew is I just wish I knew what I enjoy doing. Like I
Yeah.
never stop to think about you know,
Hmm.
what I enjoy. One of the things that I tell my clients a lot, and I'm passionate about with people is, Like I hate the fact that people go to work and they hate what they do and they're miserable every day and it's just a job. I mean, if you got to spend 40, 50 hours a week doing something, you might as well love it.
Right.
And I'd never really stopped to figure out what that was. And that's what I wish I'd known was to,
Mhm.
I guess, to stop and think, what do you really enjoy? What are you good at? What skills do you have that you can use?
Yeah.
Um, and I don't, I guess it's one of those things, like, I don't know how to tell 23-year-old me that, because
Yeah.
I don't know if 23-year-old me would have known what to do with that. I
Yeah.
don't
You don't know what you don't know, basically.
Because yeah,
Yeah.
23-year-old me still loved baseball and probably to play golf. And so I would have said maybe, at 23 years old, I probably would have gone and tried to like be a pro golfer or something, which absolutely would not
Yeah.
happen. So yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. But I guess,
So
yeah.
yeah. So what led to the journey? I mean, really, that's how did you go on the journey of figuring out what you enjoyed? Like, what led to then you figuring that out?
So interestingly,
Sure.
so I started dating a girl in Birmingham,
Okay.
and she was
Gotta
in
love
law.
those Birmingham girls, you know?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, dude. I do miss going to Birmingham and visiting her, because the food scene in Birmingham is incredible. I mean, the food in Birmingham is just nuts.
That dude, that's not been the normal, like what I grew up with, by the way. That's like been a last 10, 15 years thing. So
I mean, we still talk about the food in Birmingham all the time. Man, I wish we could go to El Barrio. I wish we could go to Fon Fon. Just all
oh yeah.
right. I
Now
mean,
you're making me hungry. Dang.
yeah. But yeah, so I started dating her,
Mhm.
and she's in law school to become a lawyer, and meanwhile I'm working at a coffee shop, or I was running the coffee shop. I won't sell myself short. I was running a coffee shop and working on starting a coffee roasting company. And so, um, but shortly after she and I got together, I realized I just kind of got really burnt out with the coffee shop. The coffee shop was the ride of a lifetime. I loved it. But I was really exhausted and I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And, she said, well, that's fine. Like, that's cool if you don't want to do that anymore, but what do you want to do? And I didn't know. I had no clue. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's really, and she was saying, well, look, like, we're on track to, like, we're going to be getting married at some point, and like, I don't want you to just kind of be floundering around and wandering from job to job and whatever. So like, I don't really care what you do, but just pick something, like pick a path to go down instead of just meandering through life. And so, and that, like, that was my quarter life crisis. I think I was like 26, 27, and I was like so busted up over it. I mean, I was like,
Mm.
because I just didn't know. And I needed to do something because I didn't want to do this over here anymore. I had to do
Mhm.
something and I had no clue what I wanted to do. And so
Yeah.
the the roasting company that I was starting out was a startup. It's not going to pay the bills.
Mhm.
So I ended up taking a job at a local hospital and doing, because we knew some people there, and it was a
Mhm.
place just for me to get a stable job and figure things out. Um, and so I took a job there, and honestly, like, that's where I did some really good thinking. And
Mhm.
all I was doing all day was really like unpacking boxes and stocking shelves, and it gave me like, I'd put my headphones in and listen to podcasts and listen to books, and it gave me a chance to do some really good thinking about, what do I actually enjoy. So what I did was, like, I just started thinking about the two things that I was doing, that I had done: the coffee shop and the coffee roasting company. And
Mhm.
I wasn't crazy, like, I wasn't super passionate about coffee. I liked it. I
Mhm.
kind of geeked out about it, went all in on the culture, but it wasn't something I wanted to hang my hat on.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, okay, well, what about those things do I enjoy? It's not
Mhm.
necessarily like, about the coffee shop. I hated the 40 hours a week being in front of people, being a host. Don't like that. Um, but what I kind of the conclusion I came to is that, um, the thing that I really loved about both of those was the building of the brand, the actual, like, you know, constructing of the brand, getting it out in the public, and getting, people bought into the brand with me on the journey. We did a phenomenal job of that with the coffee shop. We went to a place where there had been several failed attempts at a coffee shop in the past 5 or 6 years. And we started a successful coffee shop that's still standing, which, was something that we were really, really proud of.
Yeah.
And the brand building of that aspect is what I really loved. And so that made me go, okay, cool. Right. So I enjoyed that. How can I do more of that? And that was, it kind of led me to marketing. I, made some connections with people. I reached out to people who were in marketing and just said, hey, this is something I really want to get into. I want to learn more about. Can I pick your brain and, figure out what to do? And
yeah,
I remember specifically having a conversation with an agency owner in Charlotte. And he just in our conversation, he said, it sounds like you like copywriting is kind of your thing. And so I said, great. I love to write. I was a writer when I was younger. I wrote for high school newspapers and stuff like that. I journal all the time. Writing is my jam. So that sounds perfect. I'm gonna figure out how to become a copywriter. And so that led me to Story Brand, building a story brand by Donald Miller.
Yeah.
So then I got certified with Story Brand. And that was really kind of the launching pad for doing what I do now. What eventually allowed me to be able to leave that hospital job I had and start actually doing something that fills me up every day. So it was a winding journey of, I don't know, just trying to figure things out.
Yeah. And so eventually that did lead to, where you are now. Which did you end up marrying that girl, by the way?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
We're married. We've got our first little girl on the way. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're happily married here in Washington. So
yeah. Yeah. So did that lead? So once you kind of figure out what you're passionate about, enjoying branding, marketing, where has that led you to now? Has that led to different one, from an experience standpoint, but also just places, and things that you've done?
Yeah, totally. Well, one of the other things that I, determined, around that same time where I was figuring things out is that I wanted to do something that would give me freedom, because freedom is just such a big deal to me. It's like I have to feel free. If I feel I've never, even when I was still kind of, in college and trying to figure things out, I knew that I did not want to go work in some corporate office somewhere doing something stuffy. I knew then that I wanted to also be free, to kind of come and go as I please. Should I say that again? Because the little.
Oh, you're good. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I knew that I wanted to be free. I knew that I wanted to the freedom to come and go as I please, to make my own hours, to make as much money as I wanted to, and not be bound to what somebody else tells me, which I guess could be a good thing and a bad thing. But and that kind of goes back to the whole play thing. I wanted the freedom to be able to go play, and so. One of the reasons that I chose to get into what I do is because it does give me that freedom. It, I choose my own schedule. So a lot of days I get up at 6 a.m. and start working, or I get up at 5 and start working at 6, just so I can be done earlier, because I like afternoons.
Yeah.
But it also, it gives me, one of the reasons I chose it is because it gives me the freedom to pick up and move across the country if I want to, and still have.
Yeah. Right.
Which I did. Yeah. And so. To me, I don't know, it's not worth, a job is not worth giving up freedom. And I know that's not true for everybody. But it's just so important to me to be able to, to choose what happens.
Right.
What I do.
So that is such a powerful thing, because I was kind of like you. We're not really educated in that belief. I was talking about somebody, really trying to develop our earning potential. And that just thought process, I was like, man, that was for so long, your earning potential was directly related to your degree in school. And that was it. And your ability to work a job from 8 to 5. That was like your earning potential was completely limited by that. But when you hear the word freedom, it's like, yeah, this is America, isn't it? Is this not that we don't have all these different, from, social media, technology, to the ability where we can work our own hours and create a job that still does serve people, but also gives me the opportunity to make money and provide my family and enjoy the things I enjoy and live where I want to live.
Yeah. One of those old sayings about entrepreneurship, my dad actually said this to me when I was starting one of my businesses. And now in hindsight, I don't know that I agree with it, but he said that, we as entrepreneurs, we work 18 hours a day for ourselves, so we don't have to work 8 hours for somebody else. And, on one hand, like, I get it, but I also, like, I've been very intentional in the last couple of years with my own business about not doing that, not allowing that, and setting boundaries that, Cartwright, honestly, I get burnt out really, really easily. And I know that about myself now. Mm-hmm. Like I'm very aware. So like, I have to make sure that, pretty frequently we're taking cool little weekend hikes, up to places that are like really majestic, because like, I need that. I need to feel like I'm getting away. I need to regularly take an afternoon off, work hard. I'm a big believer in work hard, play hard. I'll work really, really hard and burn myself out, but I need to make sure that I've got these, things in place that to keep me from getting burnt out, because I've experienced some of that too, where get super excited about the marketing stuff I'm doing and the clients I'm working with. Only to get burnt out and not really know, and kind of be back in the same boat of like, well, I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. What am I supposed to do? And so, I have to kind of, that freedom and that sense of adventure has to be kind of intertwined with what I do, because I can't be all work and no play. I just can't.
Yeah. There's something about, like that. You have to do things that bring you energy. Mm-hmm. And that's the point of like prioritizing fun, adventure, play, getting outside, finding things that you love outside of just work. So what would you say? How do you, one, it sounds like you schedule it. That's how you prioritize fun event. You schedule it. Like, I'm going to work till this time. I'll get up earlier so I can do, play golf at this time. What are some other things that help you prioritize fun, adventure, play?
Yeah, scheduling is a big thing, especially like when you're married and she's on a schedule, and she's a very organized person. So when we take a weekend away, we gotta kind of have to schedule it and just make sure we put it on the books, or else it's not going to happen.
Right.
But as far as like my personal work life and schedule is, like, I also have to allow room for spontaneity for myself. So. If there was, a matter of fact, there was a day a couple of weeks ago where, it wasn't like I didn't get up early. I started working at 7:30 like normal. And I just, by 10:30, 11 o'clock, I was just zapped. Like, I just could not think. I was trying to write something and just could not get the juices going. Like, I couldn't figure it out. I was looking at that blinking cursor and so I was like, you know what? Like, instead of just trying to force it today, like, just take the day. Like, you could, I could sit here for another 4 or 5 hours and try to force it and just hate the rest of the day. Or I could take the rest of the day and give myself that freedom, allow myself to have that freedom, and then come in hot tomorrow, which is exactly what happened, And so, I think that, part of it is scheduling. Part of it's just, kind of learning to read yourself and, allow for that spontaneity and listen to your mind, listen to your body. There are definitely days where I work 10, 11, sometimes 12 hours, but then there are days where I work 3 or 4 hours, and I need that. I need that kind of, that kind of, I don't know what you call it, I guess, variety.
Variety, unstructured in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely in the same way. Like, I took a personality, a career, it was like a career assessment test. And it's like, they had like structured here and then unstructured work environment. And I was like all the way over here.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I love change. I love doing different things. I don't like having the same day. But yeah, I had a thought with that. It was interesting what you said. But yeah, oh yeah, like that. And I think what with for me, it was like I would feel like I could feel like a 50-pound weight would be on my back when I would be working, because I would try to push through that of, like you were saying, like, and what I was doing, I thought I was comparing work to somebody else's definition of work. I had to do work according to what they said, versus giving myself permission to, like, yeah, I could work 2 hours today and then I'll just kick butt tomorrow and miss what I missed. And I think that's really cool. Was there anybody in your life you feel like you just kind of put their arm around you figuratively and said, like, hey, you don't have to do it like this, you could do it like this? Or was that just more self-taught?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I was so the story brand community was great. That was, going to get certified as a story brand guide was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. The community there was great. I learned a ton. But just, as I learned more about, I guess as I became a better entrepreneur, just from reading books and, reading articles and listening to people and just kind of staying in touch with my community, like I've learned how to build, and I'm not saying in any way that I've arrived, but I've learned how to build those kind of things into my structure, into my days, and how to build a business that serves me instead of me serving my business. And so,
how about that? That's big.
yeah, and again, that's important. I don't want to be the kind of entrepreneur that's just burning both ends of the candles and struggling to make, like I wanted, and this is something I didn't know I could do growing up, is that I wanted to offer a service that has good margins, just to be frank, like so that I don't have to, if I want to make really good money, I don't have to work 60, 70 hours a week. Like, that's important to me. Like I for the first time in my life, I want to make good money. Like I feel okay with that. I don't feel like it's wrong to want to make good money. And but I also, like, I don't want to burn both ends of the candle to do it. I would love to make the kind of money I want to make in 30 to 40 hours a week. And it's possible. And so that's just having that thought of, that's possible. I can do that. Ooh, I really want to do that. Now let me figure out how to do it. That's kind of a new thing for me. So
that is so cool. That's just you almost had to rewire yourself in your thinking process.
I remember, when early on in my relationship with my wife, we were having a conversation about money and the future, and I remember saying, if I could make it to about 40,000-50,000 a year, like I'd be set, like I'd be pretty good. And she was like, dude, I'm going to need you to make a little bit more than that, and at the time, like I had a weird hang up about making money, and I didn't know that that was like, I don't know, I felt weird about making a lot of money. And it took me I still deal with that. I still have a hard time with that at times, but like now, like I've realized as I want to adventure more and play more golf, and I want to go on crazy trips to more like national parks around the country, and like we really want to go to Banff. It's like 6 hours away, and we're like kicking ourselves that we haven't been able to go yet.
Right. Yeah.
But, I want to be able to do these things. We love, my wife and I love good food. We love going to good restaurants and eating like really good food and good drink, and I want to be able to do that stuff. And it costs money, and so now, like, I'm kind of like saying, oh, okay, like, well, like, I'm not wanting to make money just to, so I can be rich and, like, stupid and, irresponsible and flaunt it. Like, I want to make money because I want to see the world. Like, I want to see these things. And you have to have money to do that. So
absolutely. Yeah. Huh. That's
Yeah.
yeah. That's I mean that's kind of a very similar journey of like, man, there's all these things I want to do, and I want to do with the person I care about. So what do I got to do to get there? Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, really, probably maybe my last question really is like being a southeastern guy. What's so great about living out in the coast, out in Spokane?
Yeah. We're actually, so it's technically we're not in the Pacific Northwest, we're in the inland Northwest.
Ah,
Um, I
less
still
rain. Is that what that means?
totally a whole
Yeah.
lot of rain. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
We actually had a very, very dry summer. It probably didn't rain for 2 or 3 months.
Mhm.
But yeah, what I really love about being out here, and I talk to people all the time about this back home, is the weather here is just incredible.
Yeah.
It got a little toasty this summer. We had the heat dome, and so it got a little toasty this summer. But when it was 100 degrees here during the day, it's nothing like 95 and humid in Carolina. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not even on the same planet. It's so much different.
Yeah. Dry heat is so much better than humid heat. You can get away from the shade.
Yeah, and what I learned, so we got here in February. What I learned that dry cold is way different too. And so
Yeah.
when we were driving across the
Not a
country,
bite. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, when we were driving across the country in February, which by the way I'd recommend to anybody, it's like the coolest experience. Um, our first stop, this was in February. Our first stop was actually in Birmingham, and it was 30 degrees that night, and it was bone chilling cold. I mean, it was
Wow.
like bundled up and you're still cold.
Mm-hmm.
2 days later, we were in Colorado Springs and it was 20 degrees. And it was, I mean, it felt very comparable, if not better,
Yep.
And I just remember thinking, dude, like this is totally different. And
Mm-hmm.
then so we get to Spokane and a few days later, and it's probably in 20s, 30s here. And it was, I mean, you wear the right clothes and you're fine. You're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Then gosh, I remember the first days that it hit like 45 or 50 degrees here. And people are out and, running on the sidewalks in shorts and t-shirts. It's just totally, it hits totally different.
It does.
And
Yeah.
so I love the weather here. I mean, it's so nice. Right now it's about 70 during the day and gets down to about 45 at night. And so you can just kind
That's
of
so awesome.
open up the windows at night, let the place cool down, and then it heats back
Oh,
up the day to the perfect time. It's so nice, yeah. But then, the other thing I love about being out here is that we're just like an hour or two from so many epic things.
mm,
Idaho is right there, and you know, it's just gorgeous. We're a few hours from Glacier National Park, um, 6 or 7 hours from the coast, close to Seattle, close to Rainier. Like there's just so many things within the Cascades. I mean, there's just so many things
yeah.
with flowers, and that really kind of keeps me that adventurous side of me busy. Where like I'm always like, all right, what cool hike can we go do this weekend? What
Hmm.
when's our next backpacking trip? That kind of stuff. So it's
Yeah.
something to be thinking about like
Oh
that.
man, that's so cool. Just to have that option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And
that's
then
one of
plan
the
it, right? And then like say, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go do it. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons we moved out here was to,
mhm.
we wanted to be closer to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, even like flights to California, if we wanted to go back to Yosemite or Big Sur or something, they're cheaper,
Yeah.
Hawaii, the flights out here to Hawaii are dirt cheap,
Mhm.
so like we just like, I like that we're so close to a lot of the things that we enjoy. Um,
Yeah.
we're so much closer within a day's drive or two.
Yeah.
So
And you found a community that you can do that with, or is it generally just you and your wife kind of like, no, we're gonna go do this?
yeah, totally. No, we've got some friends here that we actually met ironically through a mutual friend in Birmingham.
No.
Um,
Oh, that's
who,
cool.
yeah, that we connected with, and
All roads lead back to Birmingham, right?
I mean, as long as they lead back to the food in Birmingham, we're
That's
good.
true. That's very
Oh,
true.
Saws, that's another one that
Ooh,
think about
white
really.
barbecue sauce. Yeah. Mm.
Actually, when we stopped in Birmingham in February, we ate at Saws and bought a bottle of sauce to bring here with us. So
Yeah. Good. Good. A good idea. That's the thing that the West doesn't have. They don't have barbecue. They just don't have that.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would argue, my wife, I think, is pretty convinced that the food in the Southeast is better than the food out here. The verdict's still out for me because, like I said, we've only been here 6 months, and so there's still a whole lot more to explore. But yeah, so I'm not ready to give up on the Northwest yet on the food scene here, but definitely the food in the Southeast is it's so good.
Oh man. Well, yeah, I mean, so Jeff, man, where can people find you? What's maybe some content you'd love for my audience to know about?
Yeah. So, what I do now is primarily email marketing. I help small business owners. I help them build and execute email strategies for their businesses. Really, because email marketing it's super effective. It's way more effective than social media.
Yeah.
You don't own your social audience, right? But you own an email list forever. And so it's so much more effective. So that's why I do it. I help small business owners build and execute email strategies that help them build their army of raving fans. And so I've got some resources. If you head over to contentremedy.co, I've got some free resources for you over there, a monthly email planner, some email templates, all kinds of stuff. So
man, I've actually joined your list, and it's been great, really interesting stuff. So but thanks for coming on, Jeff. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.